Okay, let's do the after-action report on the Rye Field Fehrmann Tiger. This would have been done a long time ago, except I wanted to do the Zimmerit on the turret to match Tiger number F01. So that just made things take a lot longer than they needed to. But now I have it to where there's really no point in me waiting any longer to discuss what I think of the thing, because it's all about just me making it look like the vehicle I want to, and it has nothing to do with the complexity or build quality of the kit. So as always, piece by piece, start with the turret. So I did the Zimmerit using this milliput Superfine and these trumpeter roller and stamp tools. It went okay. It was the first time I'd ever done this, so it's pretty sloppy up on the mantlet there. And I didn't really get it fine enough anywhere. It's too thick. And I didn't really know how to handle around here, so I think I'll actually go back over this before I paint, and kind of, sometimes you see these more covered up than others and in different ways. But whatever. The thing about it that I should mention in this video is that you have to do it, and that was pretty annoying. I wish they had it molded on like Dragon, because this is not too easy, and it held up the build considerably. So one thing I'll mention about my personal opinions on doing it would be, I had this foolish idea that you should put the Zimmerit on and then dress up the turret with like these tracks and stuff. I think that was very wrong, because if you look here, you can see that these things that the tracks hang on, like these stick out farther than that one. That's just because I was carving through the Zimmerit to try to hang them where they should have been. So you should put those on first. And then I had the same issue with this one on this side, but this one's a little bit wonky. But again, I just wanted to get the review out, so I'll probably pull these off, scrape this out, correct it, and then put in some more putty before I'm done. But that's my build. It has very little to do with the kit. The turret of the kit was pretty much exactly the same as it's always been. If you look at the parts, they're the same. So I don't really have much to complain about the kit parts for the turret. I still had to seal this up and then sand a little bit to fit this roof in. Now I know they've put a one-piece turret in with their Burger Tiger, so that might not be an issue anymore. Everything else in the turret went together perfectly fine. I did have to shave this a little bit shorter, so just the very bottom of this I cut off, just so that hatch would sit correctly how I wanted it to. So then overall, any problems I have with the turret are because I messed up the Zimmerit application. Everything else is perfectly fine. Now as to the lower hull, full disclosure, these are early tracks, so I cheated. I pulled them off an earlier build because they're exactly the same as their late tracks. Now I built up some late tracks right here. I got about this far. They work exactly the same. So again, that won't affect the review at all. Their late tracks are model cast and clone, just like their early tracks, and they're all, in my opinion, fantastic. It's just your guide horns are awfully fragile and awfully fiddly to build, but they articulate really well. They have enough weight to sag correctly. When the suspension's workable, they even drive kind of correctly. So I also have attached some to the front here. These are lates, which I have the beginnings of what will be pins in there for F01. I don't think the marking options tell you to do that, but F01 did have tracks in the front like that. I need to custom scratch build some hooks for them to be hanging there. Right now they're kind of just glued there, which I suppose, you know, they could be welded there, but they weren't. They were hanging there. So the build, though, I had a shovel just dry fitted in here. I'm going to put PE clamps on here because on the actual F01 it was an empty shovel mount, and I accidentally drilled these holes, but that all works exactly the same as it did on their other kits, perfectly fine. So the Mr. Surface are here, and not the rear exhaust, but up in here, was just due to having to sand a lot to get it to fit, and just adjusting it by filling it back in with Surfacer. I think back here, I'm going to call this one my fault. And the next time I do one of their kits, if that happens again, I'll say something. But I think this was just me being really backed up on reviews and not paying attention to what I was doing. And I must have messed something up here, because I've done their kits a lot and that doesn't make any sense. I did have to replace these with Dragon, as I mentioned in a previous video, because they just kind of, I couldn't get them together, the Rye Field ones. There is still a problem with this fender. These should all be equidistant, and this between here and here is still longer than the other one, so they need to correct this fender. I would prefer it if they did them all as separate ones, but that's a little bit wishful thinking. This is the first time we saw the late wheels from them. They work perfectly well. We also had late idlers, but FO1 had an early one, so I used the earlier option they had. I did the non-workable torsion bars in this one, just so I could kind of see how this worked, where these rotate and the torsion bars don't move. It worked really well. I still think their attachment points inside the hull for the torsion bars are a bit too small. Brass cables and edge grills worked perfectly fine. Everything went really smoothly. This hatch still doesn't close. I'm not sure why this is a thing, but if you put that hammer where they say to, this hatch will be in the way. So can you just open it? Sure, but you shouldn't have to. That's a bit weird. I thought this new photo etch track holder worked really well. It's just 2 bends and then you CA it in there. But I think that looks really nice. It's a nice different piece compared to the normal just bar or the 2 smaller bars from the 503 kit. I chose to leave one of these headlights off as FO1 only had 1 installed, but I should have installed this conduit and the empty socket for this, so I think I'll do that before I paint her. We did still have these bars here for the 5-volts, which are very, very wrong. I have not replaced them with anything yet, and I will before I paint. But there should be those 2 little, basically they look kind of like these guys here, but they should be 2 over here. This isn't necessarily what it would look like if you took the S-Mine launchers off of the mounts. There could be just the little welded on mounts here, not the bolted on actual launcher stand, if you want to call it this. So there was some discussion of that when this came out. Overall, the hull was really nice. The fenders are still incorrect, which need to be fixed. I had issues with Rye Field's version of these things, as I said, just kind of crumbling on me. And I did have some fit issues with this back part of the hull, but that could very well be me. But apart from that, very easy to build, very, very quick. All the nice upgrades went very well. So all in all, apart from having to add my own Zimmerit and having some issues with that, this was pretty easy to knock together and looks really, really nice. It's like a affordable multimedia kit. I was actually impressed with it, and I became more impressed with it because I was going back and forth between Bronco, Dragon, and this. And the Dragon kit I was doing was one that I had just put up the video for recently, that Panther DV2, and that was pretty awful. And the Bronco kit was very unrefined and clunky, and then this, when I would come back to it, went together really well. Apart from some inaccuracies, it was really nice. Plus, there's a really strange side effect of these Rye Field Tigers now. This is what's left of the kit. Now, that might seem bizarre or annoying to some people who I know don't like spare parts, but hear me out. As this is the Fehrmann kit, we have this sprue completely almost left with, we have antennas for Tigers and jacks, the 503 specific turret bin, some tool boxes, tools without clamps, jerry cans that are very nice, all kinds of really nice stuff. Spares are relevant to me because if you get older Tigers, Tamiya, really early Dragons, some of this can change it into a completely different build. Because I use the late wheels, I have a perfectly good set of early wheels. Again, if I want to upgrade or change a build to something else. Initial 5-volts and hoses, more tools, later 5-volts, extra exhaust shrouds and sprockets, all kinds of decent spare Tiger parts. Quite a few. The more of these kits they make, they're getting into Dragon territory, where I'm rather preoccupied by the fact that I will have stuff, like a lot of these don't use their rear fenders, these kits that they've just put out. And if you look at this detail, on Rye Field's kits they actually have very correct detail as to how these were made on the bottom, and Tamiya's for sure don't. If I'm not mistaken, some of the older Dragon stuff doesn't either. So there's just a lot of good parts in these things. Now, it might seem bizarre that I'm talking about spare parts and being a bonus for me, but it's a value for money thing. I get a ton of stuff from them, and everything is very, very crisply done, very, very nicely done, and in a lot of cases I can replace Dragon parts, and I have many, many Tigers, so that's important to me. The kit itself, let's pretend that this Zimmerit was perfectly done, very easily up to par with the best things you can get, except for this. This is a very bad inaccuracy. And that's really all I can see as to like a major, major fault. And that's they're in good shape. They're heading in the right direction, and they're growing on me. You know, being the Dragon fanboy and the Tiger fanboy, I kind of didn't take them seriously. Built the first one, was like, pff. Built the second one and was like, alright, that's actually pretty nice. Fought me a bit, but it was good. And then this one, apart from the Zimmerit, fell together. So the Burger Tiger, I'll be doing really quickly. They said they'd be sending me one out. I'm not really into that vehicle, and I'm certainly not into the fact that it needs Zimmerit, because the whole vehicle needs Zimmerit. But it's working. I like it. They keep coming. They keep trying to take on Dragon, and every kit seems to get better. So if they can correct these fender issues, and probably this rear hull thing as well. That's a big one. Their rear hull plate, they keep using the same one. So they need to make sure maybe that they make this frame here a separate piece, like Dragon has. That allows them to do a little bit more. And just keep an eye on their molds, make sure they don't get kind of dated and flashy. And any of the parts that don't go together correctly, hopefully they'll start fixing, like this. But maybe I have a warped opinion because I have enough Tiger kits that if something doesn't work, it's seriously not even a big deal. I'm just like, I'll just run and grab something from somewhere else. Which again is why I value their kits so highly these days, because they are adding to that pile. So it's good. I think it's the par with their other kit for sure. Not as detailed as the interior kits, but the parts are just as well made. We just have those few errors, so not bad. I'm gonna go with 88. No pun intended.